I'll be right. We are good. Hi.
Robert said he'd be late, so he may be here in a half hour. He's going to the chiropractor.
You have such a lovely background.
Isn't it wonderful?
And dress on, and your hair is so nicely flowing with it all. A nice style.
Oh, thank you.
I have a little different style. I don't know what to call it.
And you look like the 4th of July.
Oh, kind of. Yes, I do. I do. Well, how apropos for this week. Oh my.
Oh, HR was wonderful this morning. There's a group called Caregivers of Mother Earth, and they're she's been called by Spirit, and so things have just gone rippingly well. And she's been in business for about a year, I guess. They're in Henderson, North Carolina, and they have been teaching kids to garden, basically.
Yes.
And so she's trying to, they've got a model now that they can replicate and give to others to put in their cities. So she's got 2 cities that have become caregivers of Mother Earth cities, cities. And she's talking to other people, trying to get them involved. So it's really lovely.
I want to play.
Well, that's the website, caregiversofmotherearth.org.
Okay.
And Doreen and Els are the people in charge. So it's Lelle at caregivers, or Doreen at caregiversofmotherearth.org. And just tell them what you want.
Caregiversofmotherearth.org. Okay.
Yeah, so I will be putting a blurb on my website about them.
I need something to do.
Yeah.
Partnership with Earth.
Yeah.
And people.
Yeah.
Ooh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I will definitely follow that up.
So how's it going with her name just went out of my Margaret, Meg Wheatley?
Well, it's over. The class is over. And I'm not aware of any follow-up. Some of us who were part of the course still post stuff back and forth a little bit, but it's not, there's no impetus to by Meg to anything at this point that I'm aware of.
What did you get out of the course?
The main thing I got out of the course is accepting the fact that our civilization is in collapse.
Oh.
And well, the main thing I got out of the course, how I relate to it is an unfolding thing. But what I got out of the course is that our civilization is in collapse, as civilizations in the past have been, that we have had. It's a pattern.
This is a bit different, though.
Huh?
I said this situation is a bit different.
It's global, yeah.
Well, and it's not just the civilization. The whole planet is collapsing, and collapsing is not really a good word. It's changing, and it's changing in dramatic ways that are going to cause everything that's living to rethink how it is here. And before, civilizations, when they collapsed, they still had the support of the environment, and we will not.
I don't dispute that. It's just that we are the cause of that.
Oh, yeah.
doing it
and
to herself.
yeah, absolutely. And there are things we could do to slow it down if we wanted to. I
Well,
think that
Meg's, what I got out of the course that Meg brought forth is that it's sustainable characteristics within humans that we have to foster and uphold, and things like gratitude, kindness, capacity to love. I mean, the characteristics that make us human. That in the collapses of society, of civilizations that have been, human attributes are what has to flourish in this civilization, since our lacking of those characteristics in this time frame have dissipated the earth.
I would not, that doesn't make sense to me, because
Okay.
I think we can be kind and generous and still separated from the planet. I don't think we've lost those characteristics, but we've misapplied them, and we've not understood how deeply they need to be applied to other non-human life. That for me is the big shift.
That's another way of putting the bottom line that I just, tried to express. I like the way you're putting it. And it's the same thing to me that I got from her in terms of characteristics of being human in ways
Right.
that support life.
Yeah, I don't hear the biology in her language, though. I hear systems, but not biology.
I don't hear biology in her. Well, what do you mean by biology? What do you mean?
Well, so much of my work has been to really see how we are the planet, that what the planet does and how the planet functions is how we are and how we function. And that has been important for me as a bridge to accepting, to partner, to connecting, to being reseated into the life that's present on the planet. Everybody else that I've heard talk, including Meg, is still about doing stuff to the planet, and that we are somehow, we're still separate. I don't hear language that really re-embeds in what she's talking about. You're a warrior for what? To help people go through this, but it's
No,
not for me. It's
not to help people go through this. The work that I understand from the course that she's saying is developing those characteristics within preserving humanity to be humane to all, to the earth.
Yeah, no, yeah. I understand that, but it's preserving humanity to be humane. And we've been trying that for centuries. But because we're not connected to the earth, we forget that it's humane to everything. We can be nice to people, and some of us do that very well. But we're still not really holding in our hearts and minds how connected we are. And that for me is just really such a huge bridge, and so important, because it informs our actions before we decide what to do. And right now, our actions are informed by that sense of separation. And so we're still stewards, we're still taking care, we're still on top of, we're still managing, we're doing all that kind of stuff, instead of really actively participating, which is, I think, where we really need to be. That listening to and sensitivity to other life should inform our actions before we think about being nice to humans, I think. And then because being nice to humans falls out of that, but being nice to other stuff does not flow out of being nice to humans. It doesn't work the other way.
I don't understand what you're saying at the bottom line, if I could try to pose a question
Sure.
that, because you know, I understand what you're saying, and there's nothing you're saying that's not true, but it's not the bottom line I'm after is the relationship with the earth. Our being humane is tantamount to our relationship with the earth. Before this civilization, we tended to have a relationship with the earth.
Mhm.
We don't seem to have a relationship with the earth in this generation, and our civilization is not friendly to earth.
I don't know that it's ever been friendly, actually. I really don't.
Come on now, the indigenous.
Well,
Th-
that's not us though. That's
That's the hell
that's
it's not. It's human. It's
that's
human people.
correct. That's correct.
That
Yes.
we're all human.
But we are not indigenous. We are not coming from that place.
Culturally, or and what that, how that changes us. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I'm the same as an indigenous person born on the land, because I'm not,
No,
because I haven't been socialized in that way
no,
or
exactly. That's
taught in
exactly.
that way. But we're all humans.
That's true, but we have to recognize where we've been socialized,
Well, that's the
and
point.
and
That's what
that's
I'm
exactly
talking
the
about.
point.
Huh?
I said that's exactly the point. So the
So I don't think what we're doing
socialization
is different.
comes from that very basic foundation that children get, understanding that they are kin, that they are part of it, and this
Yes.
is not the Western experience
I
at all.
totally agree, but so let's focus on that.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to do. And being humane in a Western context has nothing to do with non-humans.
But see, I keep stopping because you keep repeating something that is not desired. Acknowledging it, yes, but let's build something as we're talking. I'm building what we want. That's where you and I have
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I do not understand your thinking on this. It's
I
been a
know.
real big puzzle for me.
Sure.
I feel like well, the best analogy I can get is people who don't want you to say anything negative about anything at all, because you're creating that. And
No,
there's a kind of blindness that gets there. And I don't hear that in you, but I
I'm
hear
not
your
doing
mind.
that. I'm
But
not.
your mind goes there all the time, and
No,
it
it
blocks you.
doesn't. It goes to what we are to build. It acknowledges and then gets a higher vision.
I'm actually not seeing that. I'm sorry.
Right.
What I see is your desire to do that, but I don't see any actual building, because it doesn't feel like you're grounded in reality. You're grounded in the air about where you want to be, but you don't
I'm
have your feet in the
grounded.
mud, which is where we are.
I'm grounded in my need for connectivity with all
Yeah.
of life. That's where I'm coming from. And,
Well,
and that's the passion that I have to reclaim connectivity in life and have a relationship with
Annie,
the earth and each
Annie,
other.
I understand that about you. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
But there still seems to be a block of some kind, because we certainly aren't talking together. And every time we try and talk together, you withdraw and say, no, this is not, I can't do this. This isn't right. This isn't going to work, or whatever. And I don't feel like you're even hearing what's happening. You've got a reaction to it, not a reality. I don't feel like you're actually present. You're
What
in the
do you,
past with something.
what do you feel I'm not hearing or knowing or feeling?
Anything other than your own experience.
So my initial question would be, so you absolutely know, you absolutely know in yourselves something other than your own experience.
At times, yes.
At times.
That's what empathy is about for me. And compassion is being able to really experience another person's situation. Yes.
Another person's situation. We're talking about civilization. We're talking about humanity's relationship with Earth.
Yeah, well, that's true too, because some people have it and some don't. So I can experience both of those things.
Right. Let's keep going, because I appreciate and admire and recognize you and the maturity and groundedness that you have. And I want to co-create with you. And it's difficult to co-create with you when you keep falling back.
I'm not falling back. That's the understanding that you have that is not right. There's no falling back at all.
What understanding, what understanding do you think I have or don't have? Well, I don't understand.
I get that. I mean, it feels like when I talk at all about history and the historic culture that we come from, you go, don't want to hear it, don't want to hear it, don't want to hear it, go away, go away, go away, go away.
I just introduced it in this conversation as a civilization is collapsing because of our lack of relationship with the Earth and kin and each other.
And that's all true, but there's so much more to it. And there are habit patterns, and this is my world speaking, there are habit patterns that we all have from that old culture.
Yes.
And in my world, it's useful to recognize those so we can say, no, we're not doing that. We want to do this, but we have to see it first instead of just blithely going along. And if you don't understand it, if you don't have the lens to see it, then it doesn't appear. It's the water we swim in. So having to back out of that some way helps that perspective. When I want to use racism as an example, because it's exactly the same kind of thing. One of the things that has happened over the few years is that there's a phrase about being privileged, that white people are privileged. Now, when that first came up 20 years ago, oh, the backlash. I am not privileged. My life is hard. I don't have what I need. People don't let me do stuff. What do you mean I'm privileged? How could I be privileged? And seeing, understanding, using that language, and then being able to back up just enough from your experience to see where you can go and nobody else can go, really shows that. So it gives us a way to reflect on, oh yeah, man, I can do that. And as we acclimate to that, then you start to say, I understand my privilege here. Who is not privileged and how can I help? You can actually actively do that kind of stuff, which we couldn't do before because we just didn't understand that we needed to step back and let other people take that privilege, push them forward in a way that diminishes our standing, because we have the standing to diminish. We can give that gift. We don't have to feel we're being beaten up and not allowed to do stuff. We can relinquish that, which means we let other people have that privileged place and be more privileged than we are in that space. And it's okay. And that's practice, because you have that resistance to having other people be privileged over you. That's what privilege is about. You're on top. And when you suddenly actively release that being on top, then you have to get over feeling diminished and loss, because that comes with that experience, that all of a sudden you're not in charge. You can't say what has to happen. You have to listen to somebody else and do what they say, and they're different from you. And that's a huge learning experience. And that's, for me, what white racism is all about. Oh my God, shit, I don't want to do that. I don't want to lose that place. I won't let anybody take that place from me. I will be nice to them. I will be kind to them as long as they're under me. No problem. I can be warm and outgoing as long as they're under me. But I cannot let them be the same as me or above me. That will not happen. That's, for me, the dynamic of white racism. That's what it is. It's the same with the earth. Exactly. We have to let our privilege of manipulation go and start to listen and be humble to what the earth requires, and put the earth first before humanity, before our personal comfort. That's a huge shift.
I think I hear what you're saying.
And it takes a lot of loss of ego to be able to get there, with humility, and then joy. Partnering is such a joy when there's nobody in charge. Co-creation is such a joy when there's nobody in charge. But you really got to get rid of that needing to be in charge and making it okay with yourself, and not losing your self-respect, not losing, all the things that we prop ourselves up with. When we're on top, that gives us a certain illusion about our skills and our capacity that just isn't real.
So let me try to verbalize some of what I heard you say. Because I totally recognize what you're saying about white privilege. It hit me like a ton when I realized that that I have white privilege.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what that feels like, what it sounds like, what it looks like. Yep. Yes. And so, and I like what you're saying about that. In that, I was looking for words, that scaffolding, that social scaffolding is similar to our scaffolding in relationship to the earth, with the earth, except it's to the earth, that we want it with the earth. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to acknowledge and give some words to see the form of white privilege and our relationship with the earth, and how similar they are, and the upturn of that, or the opposite of that, is what we're trying to find with each other, to language with each other, to put scaffolding with each other.
Yeah.
Hi, Robert.
That was very clear. I just moved right into this and I understood what you're getting at. I love it.
And I want your male languaging.
Pardon me for being late, but I had to take that appointment and I'm here.
Yeah. I really appreciate having the time and energy, field and space to verbalize that, that scaffolding. white, the white privilege, which I've experienced and own, and my relationship with the earth, which just melts everything inside of me, and and just makes me an open vessel for exchange of life with all kin.
Yeah.
Ah, feels good to express that. And to become more conscious of it. I mean, I want us this to be a practice
Yeah.
of becoming more conscious
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And how to do that with other people when everybody's coming from a different place. Some people are closer and some people are quite far away from that, actually, and have to go through that process of understanding privilege, privilege over the earth, which is what separation gives us. That's why we've been addicted to it. It's just been a wonderful experience. We could do whatever we wanted. We didn't have to think about anybody else. And we were just able to do that, right? We've really spent thousands of years being more and more able to do that. That's been our drive as a Western civilization, is to become more capable of being privileged over the earth. That's really what we've been working on. And to stop that is huge, because suddenly we lose our feeling of control. We
And
are no longer the ones to make those choices. And that's hard. That's hard. It's very scary. It threatens our survival, it seems to, because we don't trust. The separation creates that fear. And so the only way to assuage that fear is to be in control. And that's what we've been doing. So to give up that control is truly scary. I mean, and then what's there? If you give up control, then what happens? Who's in charge? Comes
so
up.
so
How do you do that?
try to make an attempt to verbalize the natural way, the natural way, the healthy way, the connected way, the relational way.
Well, and that's what, for me, the resilient value set is all about. It's
That's something you made up. It's in a box.
No, it's not. That's what you don't, that's, I think, part of the resistance. You feel that I've made it up and therefore I'm imposing it on you. And I'm not, and I didn't. None of it came from me. I collected it, yes. I did not create it. The earth created it, and people have been looking for it for a long time. And so I looked through the eyes of a bunch of different kinds of people who look in different ways, poets and scientists and systems thinkers and indigenous people. And I took their language and put it together in what I believe is a system.
Okay.
And use it as a tool to transfer from the other tools we were using, the other value systems we are using, to a new value system we are using, or can use, if we want to be conscious of it, just like being conscious of not being privileged. It's a way of managing that privilege to be more in sync with nature, so that it's not the fear of giving up, it's the transfer to something else.
Can you can you, I can't think of the word, give, share, whatever this is, give away what you have found, what you understand, in a non-teaching, non-storytelling way. can we do that here?
I don't
Can,
know.
okay, well, that's what I would like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've done what I can do. And I am continuing to do what I can do. But
And,
it's only me.
and this forum is a field that we can cultivate that in some way that is not storytelling or teaching.
Well, the whole Coming Home project is that.
Huh?
I said the whole Coming Home project is that. That's the whole point of the Coming Home project. I mean, I've got my little contribution. I'm telling you what I'm doing. But I think that my hope is that once you see what I'm doing, you'll go, oh, but, and then new things will bloom from that.
Well, and my part is probing that it can be distributed in this field, that we can become a field of that and get away from the storytelling and teaching.
Well, I don't know what else there is.
An emergence. It's emergence of something new.
Well, and I think there's lots of emergence. I mean, everybody has their contribution to make. That's the whole point.
Right.
And it's so easy for people to say, oh, you're doing your contribution, let me join you and I'll do what you do, which is okay, but that's not really going to serve the people who are contributing unless they're doing it from their own place.
That's right.
And that's a really hard lesson for people to learn. They don't want to do it that way.
Robert, what have you
They
been?
feel embarrassed, or they feel they're imposing, or all those other things get in the way.
I'm connecting what I'm hearing from you to conversation yesterday. Someone was, touting a book on mindfulness. And from what you're just saying, I came to an understanding that the most difficult part of mindfulness is, okay, so you clear your mind. What do you fill it with?
What's next?
And that's what I hear you saying, Ani. Now, I would dispute. I think storytelling is full of wonder and emergence.
Yes, I would too. Yeah. So
teaching can be, but usually it's not. It's just, regurgitation.
Right.
But I mean, I'd like to, okay, let me delve a little bit into this. We've talked about the cycles of life. And that we can talk, each one of us can talk about my cycle of life. What has happened? What's it likely to bring forth? What will it definitely bring forth? What it's bringing forth now? To me, the mindfulness is all about allowing the mind to be available to pick up on these things. Because what's interesting me the most is that people, especially the most optimistic people who are totally, ensconced in the structure, the scaffolding that you talk about, they're seeing lots of positive things being done, but they cannot see the damage that that's causing. And why is it damage?
yes,
Because it's being propelled forward solely on the base of human pride, if you will.
Yeah.
And suddenly, and it's perturbing, the field. And some of what comes back from those perturbations does not fit. I mean, we think of it as bad, problem, something to be fearful of. But we don't even realize we caused it.
It's feedback.
I mean, sometimes we do, but a lot of the time we have no idea, especially the little things. But then there's the big things like climate change. And it took decades for people to, except for those who were totally on the leading edge, you know, and began to see this in the 50s, even in the 60s. And then others, it's like rebelling against the 1619 project about, slavery in the United States and its impact. People will object to everything. Why would they clear their mind? It'd be kind of silly. There's nothing can get in anyway. You know what I'm saying? This like, excuse me, like that just really needs to go out right now. I'm gonna let her out.
Okay. Oh. Yeah.
Sorry about that, but it was difficult to think. But so I see that as the biggest problem right now is it's not teaching, but I guess in a way it's to show people I'm around, demonstrate how to think, in a way that's open to emergence. So what's emerging? It's awareness of those returning cycles. Some of them are good, some of them bad. It doesn't matter. All of them need to be, you need to adjust, to flow with it. Now, quite frankly, I kind of see that in a holistic, global way as the word of God, that's written about in, that's the word. That's what the word is. That's why it keeps coming up out of the east, and slapping us in the face. But if our mind's full of crap, we're not going to see it.
Nice.
And I mean, the structures, the scaffolding. That's a great word. I love that choice. I've built so much scaffolding that I just love the way you use that word, because what does it do? It gives you access to certain things, but it obscures the main thing.
Would you say more about what the wisdom coming from the East, or how, I forget how you put it, but something about how to think.
There are cycles that are based in the materialistic world. In other words, they're perturbations that we have caused. I also happen to believe, but I can't speak from terrific sense of knowledge, that such a thing as the Akashic records exists, that there is a sum total sync of all of knowledge and memory and whatever. I've had instances where it's very clear that that's what's coming through to me. I would say, Kathryn, that when you speak of your past lives, your knowledge of past lives, that's where I would peg it, that it's where it's coming from. And I get those feelings, although it's not crystal clear. But there's sort of it's sort of the great.
It's the plasma.
Bank, the plasma of the universe is carrying all of this. And so we become aware of it. And so if that fills us, then there is something to fill that empty space that's left when you're being mindfulness. It's full of that mind, as opposed to just emptying out everything and then wondering what's left.
I would suggest, though, that there's a place for agency, that it's not all receptive, that it's a generative place.
I would agree with
that. That the life wants to play with. It's not about doing what we've done before or any of that. It's about playing. So the opening of the mind, the quieting of the mind gives you a way to begin to be in a space to play with, because you're receptive enough that your own agency can step forward without all that clutter that stops it from doing what it really can do. this feeling of control is a huge limitation, just huge, because it takes all the play and experimentation out of it. It inserts fear instead of curiosity. It's just really not a very productive place actually to be. I mean, it's gotten us a long way and has done certain things, but I do think that those places that have been the most generative are places where the actors in that space are truly playing, are truly in that more receptive spot. Even though they've been driven from this control place, that's not where they were at that point in time. That allowed that new information to come in and happen. So yeah, I mean, I don't make us bad and wrong for being in control or wanting to be in control, but we really do have to, especially in a time where we're of dissolution. You know, I mean, it's really natural to want to go, oh no, and I like this and stop and it hurts and all those things that make you want to be back in control, and to prevent stuff instead of allowing it. But the allowing from a place of trust is just a much richer place to be. I mean, I think we've all had experiences where something horrendous has happened and you go through it with great, you know, and you manage to get through it. And then you look back and you go, great, man, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have this, you know, there was a gift in that, even as hard as it was. And that's what I see this whole thing being. You know, if we can get to that place, we will find the gift. But as long as we're resisting and in that, it is much, much harder to have an open mind and to be a co-creator, which is what I think we're being called to be, very much so.
And
yeah.
agency is vital to that. It is central to that,
Yeah.
because agency is part of responsibility. I mean,
Yeah, but agency for what is the key, please? To keep me safe or to play?
play. Yeah, I mean,
But the
agency
same,
to co-create, to interact, to recognize who we are, how we're part of everything that's interconnected. Everything I do affects everything else.
yeah.
Well, look at, I mean, let's just take an example of, let's say in a particular moment, a bear is charging me. Okay, what do I do? So obviously I can't outrun it. If I stand up tall, let's say it's a Kodiak bear, he's twice as tall as I am. He's not going to be bothered. Can't run, can't scream, maybe. But there is a solution. One of them is, and a friend of mine has shown this, not that the bear was totally enraged, that probably couldn't break through that, but he started doing playful modes and jumping around, and the bear said, oh, that looks like fun. And you know, that was a choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
The clarity of mind was what allowed that choice to come up. I mean, that's not a natural choice for human beings.
Yeah.
And you know, it's maybe that's sort of a contrived example, although it actually was a case with this friend of mine, but it wasn't. I mean, anyway, it was somewhat of a contrived. He was in a natural preserve, and the bear did start to, anyway, it's close to a real situation. But it gives, you know, it makes my point that that's an emergent idea, and it's always there. Now, is it the right idea at any given time? You know, maybe not. Maybe there's another one. But that's the agency where we decide. It's
Yeah.
for us to decide, and it's for us to protect our lives. You know, we want to keep living. That's what agency's for.
Right, right. But we don't have to do that at the sacrifice of something else always.
Yeah.
I would like to share that I find myself from time to time aware with this image of exactly that, a bear in my
Yeah, maybe it's your power animal.
in proximity to me, and what would I do? And I find myself sometimes in scenarios inside of my head practicing it.
Mm.
And the practicing of it is opening myself, is enlivening and activating anything within myself that can possibly connect with that bear in the oneness that is true. I find myself practicing that sometimes. It's not that I sit down and practice it. But that's my yearning. I want to open myself to that because I know we belong together.
But playing is different than opening, I
Well-
think, in a way. There's something about Robert's story of playing where there
Playing.
what I'm hearing in opening is sort of a negation of yourself in a way.
No. It enlivens everything within me.
Then how do you act? Because there's got to be something that
Right.
comes out of that, which is where the play for me comes.
I like the idea of play. That's an evolution of what I'm saying. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To
It's not passive, not
Um,
passive at all.
it's what I see at those times is my arms like this. And so that's almost play. But I hadn't put the word play to it, but it is movement, friendly feeling and free movement, which is what play is, I guess.
Well, I think we also have to disassociate the idea of being with the word passive,
Uh,
because
Oh.
so a similar situation, I was reading in a book that my sister gave me, written by the monk that she was studying with in the wilds of Thailand. And what they would do, actually it wasn't written by the monk, but it was about his teacher, who was a renowned monk. And what that monk he would go into the woods for weeks, and he would be confronted by a tiger in this one story. And the way he wrote about it, that's the impression I got, that simply being with the tiger was the most active
Yes.
thing that
Yes.
he was simply being with it. Obviously, Buddhism is, of course, the non-attachment to anything. So if the tiger wanted to eat him, good, but that obviously didn't happen, or he wouldn't have lived to tell the story. But that's a terribly, active thing to do.
I can feel it in my vagus nerve. I swear to God, right now.
Yeah. This whole idea of being in space, in the moment, with whatever, as being passive, just que sera, that's totally a human concept.
Yeah, I that que sera I would put more in the opening thing than in being, Because I do agree with you, being is much more vital and much more present and much more receptive. It's
Yes,
really an engagement
yes,
of togetherness, of beingness together.
And that's a very active mind to stay
Receptive.
engaged.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
love it.
Yep.
I want to practice.
Well, I think no, this is a
There.
wonderful
Well,
conversation.
you do it, and you do it with people too. I mean, that
Absolutely.
I've done that.
Whoops.
She
Kathryn,
froze.
I think she froze.
And earlier, Annie, I could experience his fear. I could experience his angst,
Start,
and I
start
just talk
again.
to it.
Start again, because we didn't hear you. You were frozen for a minute or so, minute or two.
I was with a then boyfriend in a parking lot, and a guy came up with a gun and wanted our money. And so I was just with him. I understood where he was. I didn't make him wrong for being in the position he was being, but it was just not a workable situation. It wasn't really going to get him what he wanted. And we just talked through it, and he left,
Yeah,
you know, because he didn't really want to hurt anybody. He wanted what he wanted. He wanted to fill his needs. And that was how he thought he could do it. And it just wasn't appropriate at that time and place. So, I mean, there's just being with people. We can do that with people instead of being responsive or reactive. You know, I mean, from Meg's perspective of trying to be more human, I think that's the path, is just being. Is as human as you can be at that point in time. That's what that is. It's being fully human in that space.
nice.
And another active part of it is that it takes actively casting down that scaffolding that has you completely trapped. I mean, an example, some of the wisest men I've met are like these, grumbly old men that I've met, up in the countryside of North Carolina. Now I could either MAGA them and say, okay, you're, because they of course voted for Trump and they tell me that proudly, or start asking questions and just being with, and suddenly, these guys have lived. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the worst, the quickest constructs that pops up. It has to do with the, this stereotyping of people, and it just blocks everything.
Oh.
It's so interesting how that stereotyping is such a scaffolding for people's thinking, and they really cling to it. They really want that scaffolding. It's unnerving to let it go. And they build so much on it. And then the more they build on it, the more difficult it is to undo, because all this other stuff has to go too. And it becomes a major project. Yeah.
I'm struck by the two words scaffolding and unnerving, because scaffolding is like nerving. I mean, your nerves are like, and unnerving is a beautiful thing.
Mm.
That's quite beautiful.
I unnerve. I like to nerve. It feels good to be all my system turned on. But if I stay that way for long, it's not a good idea.
No.
And unnerving is part of the cycle of life, I guess. Of course.
Uh,
Agency. I don't know. I just love, I so appreciate how we do this with each other.
Yeah.
I've always actually appreciated some of the truth in stereotypes. And it's kind of irritated me that we can't use it as a shortcut to some of those things. But we get so caught in it that it colors everything instead of being informative.
Mhm.
I say,
Oh.
explain what you're saying.
And it's 10:30 and I have to go.
Oh, boy, that went fast.
It did. It's because
Okay.
Robert came in late.
I know, I came in late. But I also need some lunch. It's 1:30 here. So
Yep.
that'd probably be best.
Thank you both. Bless you.
Thank you
Yes.
both.
All
Yeah.
right. Bye-bye.
Great to
See you
good to
next
be-
week.
Okay. Bye-bye.